The first time I quit my job, I didn't have a plan.
I was just like burning cash. I didn't make a single video.
I hope we just don't crash and burn like every other content house.
I think there's two reasons why most of these content houses have fallen. One is
These three creators live together in a New York City closet of 800 square feet. They've more than quadrupled the number of YouTube subscribers in less than a year to more than 250,000. They barely knew each other before. They make totally different styles of content on separate channels. Why are they succeeding while most other creator groups have failed? Find out today on the Karat podcast as we welcome the Content Closet with Tejas Allure, Colt, and Shervin shares. I am here today in New York City in this 800 square foot apartment of creativity with the Content Closet.
Ooh, woo.
I think,
Wait, guys, come on, we need a little bit more energy than that.
yeah, a little more energy.
Yeah.
That
was so bad.
That was so bad. A little bit more. Thank you. I would argue do you consider yourselves a content house?
No,
Why?
because we don't really do group content. We're more of like a creative collective.
The fastest growing creative collective in New York City featuring Colt, Tejas, and Shervin. What was the moment, the first times each of you ever met each other? And then following that, the moment though where you began to identify each other as not just NPCs, but as friends.
So yeah, I met Tejas at it was a Creator Now event, I think, and
Yeah.
I was like, this guy just came up to me, started talking to me. He's like, "What's your number?" And I was like, "Whoa." What's your location? Share your live location. And I was like, what?
You're the one who followed up after being like, hey, it's
It
good seeing
works.
you. Let's take this to a second date.
Yeah, because I was curious. He was very interesting. You know, we all have our quirks, and I was like, I want to learn more about this guy.
You were the most aggressively forward person I've ever met in the best way possible. Like, you just DM Colt, you're just like, bro, what camera do you use?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go Shervin, ask for his number, yeah.
It's one of the things I believe in, especially with everyone here, like in the creator space. Half our job is just networking. And so for me, how can I stand out? It's like, how can I offer the most specific way we can meet up so that the easiest thing for you to answer is like, okay, I mean, you have the place, the time, and everything set up. Might as well say yes instead of saying, hey, we should do something. And then the other person has to like decide. And then usually most of those things fall through, right? So if like
Yeah.
Shervin's like, hey, we should hang out. I'm like, what are you doing this day at this time? And let's make it happen, you know?
So you guys, that was your first hangout. What was your first one-on-one hangout?
Did we play We're Not Really Strangers on your rooftop? I think
Maybe.
it got like super deep, and I think
Yeah.
it was like within the first week of meeting you,
Yeah.
and then now we live
Our
together.
friendship, I think, in like 2 weeks accelerated from 0 to like you were my best friend.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't live in the
Shervin's
city.
right there, Tejas.
Shervin's my dad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
makes
yeah.
sense, makes sense.
Yeah, but I didn't live in the city at that time, and then pretty soon after, I was crashing on your couch, and just we started a daily vlog together. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
And so at what point did you feel, okay, this isn't just another stranger here in the Big Apple. This is someone I can consider a friend.
Ooh. You go.
I think with Tejas, it was like he kept saying, "Let's go to the gym. Let's go to the gym. train me, train me." I was
This guy's jacked. He can help me get jacked.
Very
So yeah, I think 3 times a week we'd go to the gym together.
we did, yeah.
We
That's
did.
a good point.
A lot. Like I think he signed up for a gym membership just so he could come to the one near my house. So I think that persistence of like wanting to hang out, I was like, all right, fine. I guess we can be friends now. And it was just like I enjoyed the conversations we had. I think there's a lot of like pushing each other in terms of like how we thought about life and how we thought about like relationships and people and our worldviews. So it's just the conversations was
Okay,
good.
I kind of love how you led with Tejas basically gaslit me into friendship because I'm like, the guy has my number. He knows where I live. He goes to the same gym where I go.
Guys.
I work out with him 3 times a week.
I promise I'm getting painted horribly right now. This is so bad, but
It's
that's
incredible,
probably what I do.
incredible logic where like Shervin's sitting there and he's like, well, I must be friends with him because why else would I be doing all of this? And
Also, you offered me to go to your yoga class. So that opened the door to be like, hey, this is a nice gym. I don't go to anywhere right now. Do you have anyone to work out with? Let's work out together. And yeah, you're much buffer than I am. So out of self-interest, I'm like, I got a lot to learn from this guy. So.
And then after he just gaslit you into this friendship, that's where you backed out. And you're like, oh, but like also, you know, we get along well in terms of perspectives and like relationships and dreams and ambition and making content here in New York City. What about you two?
I think, yeah, there was that spurt of time that I was just like hanging out, crashing on your couch there was like one time that I was there for like a whole week straight, and we were just very much on the same wavelengths, similar goals and stuff, and yeah, you kind of just like helped me out into getting here in the first place.
Yeah. And I think the big thing, even though all three of us have like started YouTube and content creation from all three different angles, we're all in very much the same boat. Right? Very much like last year, Colt and I were like, we gotta figure out this YouTube thing. Shervin's always been in the YouTube world, and even like I felt like this year was a rebuild for me, even though 2 years I've been on TikTok. I felt like I'm starting from zero. Colt felt like he was starting from zero. You're starting from like 5%, right? Last year. So we were all like, we're in this city together, trying to figure it out. That's what really grouped us together.
What I love about each of you focus on a different style of content. Like Colt, yours is very intimate. It's very personal vlogs. Yours is focused on investigating subjects one step deeper, one step more entertaining than anyone else. Shervin, you're super into health, technology, and fitness. Now, across all three of though, each of you is really good at editing, but your individual styles are really different. And each of you has grown explosively over the past year, 4 to 40K, right? No, you're 4 to 40K,
Yeah.
4 to 40K. You're at like 10 to 80?
I was like 20 to 80.
20 to 80, and you've gone from like, what, like 30 to 100K?
Yeah,
so, yeah.
probably even less than 30.
I was like
I met
5 or
him
10.
I met him at 4,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm so curious, when each of you look back at your journey, what would you say are the biggest ways you've really changed, even during the past period of time where you've been living together?
I used to do YouTube was like my side hustle, and then a lot of times I just did like freelance videography and just filming for a bunch of YouTubers. I used to film for Shervin, actually. That's the first time we hung out. And then something happened in May, and all of our channels just started taking off. And after that, I kind of knew I had to take YouTube a little bit more seriously. So now it's just like I have my main guy, which is Kelly now, and kind of diluted all the freelance. And now it's just balancing YouTube and Kelly.
Yeah, I remember in your video, you talked about working with Casey and shooting
Yeah.
for him. And he turned the camera around to feature you in it.
Yep.
And you looked shocked. You were
Yeah,
like,
well, I'm the cameraman. You don't show the
yeah,
camera.
you were like, I'm the guy behind the camera.
Yeah.
And Casey's like, well, you're in the camera. And you're just like,
Yep.
and something around May, it sounds like you're like, no, like, I'm actually going to go for this. And is this around the same time you guys started to live together too?
I should say both the releases were ending at the same time last year. So at the end of last year, we're like, hey, man, I'm already hanging out and going to the gym with you. I've already
basically
lured you in my
roommates.
trap. It's like, might as well live together, right?
Yeah.
And Colt, I mean, you've wanted to move to New York City for as long as I knew you. So the question was, all right, what are the needs that all three of us want, right? What is the, like, it's in New York, it's one of those memes where it's the triangle of like price point, quality of apartment, and location. Pick two, not three. Right, and it's like figuring out that debacle was one whole ordeal. We came here, we're at the content closet now.
Yeah.
But it brings back to a conversation you brought up earlier, like why we don't call ourselves a content house. I think one thing of like why we work together so well is we're all very symbiotic, right? Colt's strengths are our weaknesses. His strengths are our weaknesses. Hopefully my strengths are y'all's weaknesses. But yeah, I think like that mix of everything really pulled us together. And in May, your first video in this new season of Colt Kerwin did really well. My first video, basically any long form video
Dobrik.
ever, Dobrik, and that was also in May. And this like we all felt this like, whoa, there's something here.
What do you think each of your strengths is, relatively speaking? You mentioned you all have different perspectives on content and what you're good at.
Yeah, I'm very much on the like creative and like artsy side, but I don't really know how to monetize this that well. And I feel like you guys are very
Mine's right here.
Your strengths are your biceps, but Tejas is really good at the business side of it and like networking and getting to know the right people. And I'd say Shervin is just like really good at consistency. My upload schedule is like once a month, if that. And he's just been a case study of just what happens when you just, suck it up and just continue to, I don't know, have the same cadence.
It's like
for
he
a
has
while.
really good systems in place.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's that exact spectrum, right? A creator is just an artist on one end, and and a machine on another, and it's like we have all aspects of that spectrum here.
We're sitting in order, huh?
Yeah, basically.
I kind of like that because, for example, we talked a bit before we started filming about Oscar the Grouch. You featured in a very surreal portion of your video as the entranceway into the content closet. You climbed into his trash can. You climbed out. Tejas, were you the voice for Oscar the Grouch in that?
I was.
Okay, so there's like a little mini collaboration, right? Your content is very much focused on investigation, where you add in a lot of somewhat cinematographic elements. And then Shervin, you're very focused on the products you review. I remember, to Colt's point on business and monetization, even when you had like 5,000 subscribers, you were monetizing like at an incredible rate.
Yeah, I think I was, making a couple thousand a month.
Yeah.
Which is like, which validated the concept that like I could do this full time as long as I put more work into it.
I remember, Shervin, in a previous pod, you mentioned listening to a quote from Gary Vee where he said, "Now is the best time of your life for 4 motherfuckers to go like live in a goddamn basement in New York City and like eat pizza and sort of go for it," right? And like each of you, not only have you had really big dreams and you've grown a lot over the past year, you've also taken really big risks. I mean, you left a 6-figures job. Like you studied computer science, you were a product manager. I mean, Tejas, when we met, you were living in a corrupt content house in LA as like TikTok boy, right? And to then throw away TikTok and say, I'm going to focus on YouTube. Cool. You already mentioned like going from videographer to being on camera subject. Shervin, starting with yourself, I'm really curious, what was the motivation behind, I could live a perfectly financially secure life and like, God, no, I am going to restart this all and make it as a content
Perfectly
creator.
financially sustainable.
Pure delusion.
Bit of Lulu.
Yeah, I think a little bit of delusion is definitely a part of the recipe. And blind faith.
Should go into fear setting.
Yeah, I guess fear setting is literally the foundation of how I made every single big decision in my life so far. And that's just defining what's the worst case scenario. I learned this from Tim Ferriss. And what's the potential best case scenario? And then just scaring yourself with like, what are you missing out on if I don't? Like, if I don't quit my job today, like I'm potentially missing out on, massive career success, massive amount of happiness, and chasing the things I've always wanted to do. So, the longer I stay in this job, the longer it's going to take for me to get there. So I better quit my job now, so that way I can do that. So that's kind of how I went about like leaving that to chase what I wanted to do.
Did you have a backup? Like, how do you financially support yourself when you left?
I had a runway for my job. I would invest a lot of my money. Like my rent has never been more than $1,000 a month until I moved to New York City. So, I always try to live as cheap as possible. And every single dollar that I made, like I invested it or I saved it. And then that was kind of like the backing of like, all right, I have enough, or worst case, I could sell these stocks or this investment or whatever it is. Or I had like a cash runway, and I was like, I have the ability to take the risk financially, so I might as well do it. Worst case, I sell the stock, and then worst case, I move back in with my parents. Yeah.
And Tejas, you dropped out of school.
Yeah.
I think out of the 4 of us here today, you're the only college dropout.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I said,
Crazy. So sorry, what's the question? It's
just like the moment you decided to do it, what was going through your head?
I think I've always said that the decision to drop out wasn't an emotional decision. It was kind of just logical, right? And I had an opportunity to move to Los Angeles for 3 months on someone else's dollar to help consult. And I was like, do I live in Bloomington, Indiana, or move to Los Angeles for what would have been my first semester of senior year? It's like, that makes, like, I can take a gap year, right? And like move to LA. I want to be in the creator space. At that time, it was 2021, August. It was like the most popping TikTok era. And I was like, I can't miss this. And so it was just opportunity cost. Basically the same thing he said. It's like, what am I going to miss out if I'm just in Bloomington, Indiana? And then from there, we, Dylan and I thought of catching ice cream as well. And that moved us to New York. So it's funny. I'm technically still on like a gap year system. I just kind of re-enroll.
So you could go back to school.
Yeah. And I keep my student ID so I can keep getting student discounts or stuff. Yeah. And then I drop out again.
I kind of love that. Yeah. And both of you are sort of describing like, these are decisions that at least I look at and I'm like, holy f***, that's really scary. And of course, I'm coming this from the perspective, he spent like over 5 years in the corporate system before deciding to do something new. And both of you describe it, well, it's actually like very logical and rational. It's like, well, I could just move back in with my parents. I have runway. And you're like, well, okay, TikTok's literally blowing up and someone else is going to pay me to help cover my costs while I'm here in LA. Cool. I'm curious for yourself. I know obviously before being a creator, you were a videographer. Before that, if I recall, like you worked like as a sales associate, right?
Yeah, PacSun, let's go.
And so what was the
Dude, the
decision?
deep dive, whoa.
Oh yeah, come on. I had to understand more about the content closet, and get right in there with you. So what was it for you? Was it very similar to Tejas and Shervin, where it's kind of like, yeah, like this isn't that bad. Like I've got options, people are paying me, or was it different?
I was in my last semester of college, and very much so, like a lot of people had no idea what I was gonna do. And then it's just like right place, right time. I shot Kelly a DM at that time, and we just started working together. I would skip class to come down to the city and film for him. And then from that, graduated and kind of just like, it wasn't like good money. It was more so like contractor work. And we kind of just like developed a relationship, and then it fully went full time. And then coming to New York City, finally moving in with these guys, it was pretty scary. And part of that triangle of cost, location, what was the other one?
Cost, location, quality of apartments.
Quality, yeah. I was like they were really set on Long Island City for a second. I'm like,
Wow,
oh my God,
really?
I can't make this at all. And then we ended up here, which was the most affordable, but maybe the
Least quality,
least quality, but
best
best
location.
Yeah.
So that's the trade-off you basically made was on quality.
Yes, yeah.
Quality's subjective. Look
Yeah,
at this
we made
paradise
it-
you're in
we
right now.
made it nice.
For those of you who don't know, Colt's room is
like a fishbowl.
exposed entirely and has no privacy whatsoever. So
That's
yeah,
so funny.
I see
Humble
you trade it
beginnings,
off.
though, you know.
Tejas, what about for yourself? When you look back, I mean, we met in 2020 when you were living in the corrupt LA content creator house.
Yeah.
When you
Yeah.
compare yourself to then, well, first of all, you've grown a full head of hair.
Yeah,
look
that is true.
Like much older.
You too.
Yeah, both of us have grown hair. It's just sort of the natural
Everybody,
progression.
yeah.
We all
all of us
actually
have
grew
pretty
out
I
good
had the
hair.
skin fade back then.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the takeaway. It's like you want to grow and succeed in life, you gotta let the locks flow.
Yes.
It's like
No,
Samsung
absolutely.
and Delilah, right? Like
Yeah.
strengthen your locks of hair.
That's it.
You've also like physically gotten way buffer. I mean, you literally went
Yeah.
3 times a week with Shervin.
Why
It's
do you
like,
think I
this-
went over there?
This makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So what about emotionally? What do you think are the
Yeah.
ways that like you've changed, especially going from there's a period where in TikTok, I remember you weren't sure what you were doing. You were trying like 50 gazillion different things to,
Yep.
it's like you finally found what you want to make on YouTube.
No, you described it perfectly. I think the biggest difference. So I'll start with this. This year has been the most growth I've faced ever, right? And I'm not just talking about numbers, like just personal growth as well. The first 2 years, I've been in this game for 3 years. The first 2, I think I've always had some sort of imposter syndrome of, can I actually be a creator full time? So I'd always fill my other time with some sort of other consulting gigs, some sort of other something, and be like, oh, this is the more legit thing, so I'm gonna do that while I create on the side. And then the start of this year was the first year I really felt like I had to like climb down a mountain and rebuild it. Of I'm gonna do YouTube full time. Like I'm gonna try being this creator thing. Large part is because they both are on this journey as well. So to your point, the growth is instead of going 5 paths and taking 1 step each and not really getting anywhere, it's like 1 path. I have the most clarity
Yeah.
of mind this year, going 12 steps in that one.
In the past few years, I've always thought of you very much as a businessy guy. Like, oh, there's a lot of folks in the creator economy. It's like, yeah, I consult a bit, I shoot a little content, I help with some brand deals. And I think of you squarely as a creator.
Wow, I appreciate that. That means a lot, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a huge part of it is, well, both of you are focused on that as well. When you decided to move in with them, were you already planning to focus on YouTube? Like, which came first?
It was focus on YouTube move in. I think like we've all known each other for like 6 months before moving in with each other.
Actually, isn't even that long.
No, it's actually not at all.
Not.
Who are you?
Yeah. But I mean,
When's the wedding?
he especially from I think the moment he met me was like, "What are you doing? Like you should do this YouTube thing. Like you have the
Call out.
skills and yeah." I remember from the beginning, and I think like, you were one of the biggest pushes for me to be like, I should do this. But, like he's making some sort of living at 4,000 subscribers. Like why can't I? Like he's way worse than I. No, I'm kidding. I at least have like a 500,000 on
I love
TikTok.
you like looking at me like, if he can do it, so can I.
No, but out of all seriousness,
Here to inspire you.
no, I think it was be YouTuber first, move in, and part of us moving in is we have zero FOMO on what else is happening outside of New York. It's like Friday night. There's like we're not going out. It's like it's way easier to sit down and edit when the 2 people in the room are also editing with you. And so once we all moved in, this is the best situation I've ever been in my life. Best situation. And I think the numbers, the growth, My muscles, they're all
Your hair?
saying that too. Exactly. So
Shervin, you were already on that content creator journey. You had made your piece when you left your job. Like,
Yep.
oh, I'm gonna fucking go for this. So I'm curious. One, do you remember like what exactly do you tell Tejas? Because it clearly left a huge impression on this young lad's life. An inflection point. I'm so curious. Like, were you just like, dude, like, what the fuck? And second, what's been different for you going from presumably living yourself and doing this journey to when you look back, how you've changed living with Colt and Tejas?
Yeah, I don't fully remember what I said, but I think one thing we're good at is stating what we're thinking and just saying what's top of mind. So I was probably thinking that, and we're blunt and we just say it out loud.
yeah.
So I probably said something to that, whatever felt right at that moment. How have I changed since I've been living with them? I think there's definitely been a fuel to the fire in terms of like making better content and more content. Because in the beginning, I think we all moved in and everyone kind of had their own jobs. We were kind of doing separate things for a little bit, and maybe we weren't as focused on creation. And I was like, doing my thing here and there, kind of relax. And then Colt made one video and just.
This
And
is the
then-
one with Oscar the Grouch.
Yes, yeah.
And then I was like, whoa. Wait a minute. I've been making videos every week and he just makes one?
And in the past year, the subscribers.
Yeah.
So then it's boom.
You
That's like
passed
a
'em.
competition. Yeah.
Yeah, so then I was like, the first was the Kelly video.
Yep.
And I was like, all right, I got to put in more work. Like, I got to get. And then he made the second video, the Oscar video, and that just skyrocketed him. And I was like, all right, I can't just sit here and keep doing the same thing. I need to be more strategic. And I was like, one, I love that Colt's succeeding. Like, I think all of us should be at 100K by the end of the year. And then two, I want to beat him there. Like,
you
let's
did.
all get
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Let's all get there. And I want to get there first. So I was like, all right, it's time to really put in the work now.
Wow. It's like you guys are egging each other on because literally right after Tejas, joking is like, this guy's doing it, so can I. You're like, why the hell is Colt passing me? I'm busting my ass off making videos. You make videos like every week, right?
Yes.
Sometimes twice a week.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
He really is a machine.
Like, it's a lot of videos.
But and
What's your
also
queue looking like?
also understanding that like sometimes my goals might be different than Colt's goals.
Yeah.
What do you mean
And-
by
and
that?
Like subscribers and views can be one metric for success, but like my goal is I want to build a sustainable business. So I need to have revenue and income. So that's part of my goal as well. So it's not about just having 100K subs, but it's about making enough money so this can be the job for the rest of my life.
I love that. Actually, for both of you, when you put aside the subscribers and the views, which like obviously that's the balance. We all have to care about that to like some degree. Your goal is like, I want to build a fucking business for myself. What about for each of you? What's that goal beyond just the likes and the number of people watching?
Yeah, I just like always wanted to be a YouTuber, and I feel like I'd regret my entire life if I just didn't give it a shot. I'm 110%, so that's kind of what sparked this year for me. And then learning from them, trying to like monetize it without like selling out, I guess.
So first, why YouTube? I know you mentioned Casey really inspired you, but that could have gone in a lot of directions, right? Could have stayed in filmography or videography, could have gone to traditional Hollywood. Why YouTube specifically? And second, like, what does selling out mean?
Yeah. Ooh.
And
Yeah, I've always wanted to be a YouTuber. I guess, Casey was the one that inspired me to really pick up the camera for the first time and dive into it. And it's just like, it looks so fun, just creative freedom. Traditional film is just like, you gotta have a whole crew and just one shot takes forever and so much expenses and stuff like that. So YouTube is a place where you can really just like express yourself, and whatever you want to make can come to fruition, And then what was the second question?
Yeah, what does selling out mean to you?
Oh, selling out, yeah. I guess it's like a spectrum, but for me, I only want to really take on like deals that I can really get behind or actually use versus just saying yes to everything. I think my first year before we lived together, I was a yes man. Aside from like brand deals and stuff, like I just said yes to every opportunity, just trying to get myself into this space, this creative space. And then after moving into each other, I guess my motto this year has been starting to say no, and it's been very life changing.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. Tejas, what for you is the dream beyond just the views and the likes?
The comments.
Kind of, actually. That's you're not wrong. I mean, I think every person has a monk and a capitalist inside of them, right? So it's like the capitalist to me is let's build a great business so I can, have mini retirements, have the freedom to do whatever at what time. The monk inside of me is like, hey, the best comments I'll ever get are the ones that are, wow, your journey's really like something about what you're doing is really inspiring. Or like I took this from Ryan Trahan of the idea of redemptive content versus exploitative content, right? All I'm asking is a view, right? I just want one view from the viewer, right? Click on my video, and I want you to walk away with like 10x more value, whether that's educational value, something like that. That's how I look at making every video. So you come in, you're like, oh, this could be interesting about why David Dobrik abandoned YouTube. And then you walk away with, oh my God, I just got a crash course lesson on how to read financials. I just understood kind of this curtained area of Snapchat. So to me, that's like, I'm putting out more value in the world than I'm taking. Makes me I want to make a lot of money.
What's exploitative content?
Yeah, exploitative. I think it's the opposite, right? Where the terminology like regrettable view is I think coming up. Of like when you put something out there where you promise something and, you know, it's the person watching it. It could be mindless, right? It could be just a waste of your time of some sort. It's hard to explain without going into specifics, but I don't want to call anyone out. You know what I mean? But I think I feel like everyone can kind of picture it in their head. Right? If you ever clicked on a YouTube video and you watch the 10 minutes or you're in there, you're like, I don't feel anything.
What I'm hearing is
exactly.
You're not just going to post quotes you found on Twitter with your head talking over them and a Subway Surfer segment on the bottom.
Exactly.
That's not value add to you.
Yeah.
And
that fulfills the monk in me, right? So again, everyone's definition of success is different. And I think that's the beauty of this creator world. Some people tend to be more capitalist than monks. Some people tend to be more monk than capitalist. But for me, if I can get a group of people that thought they could do one path and they're looking at my story and being like, oh, there's another path here, or get more educated in a certain subject that I don't think there's enough education on, I'm fulfilled.
I love that, especially because had the capitalists been a little bit more in control, I could totally picture a world, Tejas, where you continued on what you were doing a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, like my TikTok's growing, like I can monetize this via consulting, versus like, no, let's like go back to basically scratch. You had like 2-3K on YouTube for a long time, and you were putting out high quality videos, but they weren't popping off.
No.
And I see that as your monk being like, well, I have the discipline to really want to care about this and really go for this.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious for yourself because you described, hey, it's not just about content. It is very much about building a sustainable business for yourself. You even mentioned when you left your job, you were thinking through a runway, how to support myself. And yeah, Gary Vee, it's like you can just live in a closet and you can be okay. What's that monk aspect for you look like, right? When you think about, look, at the end of the day, you could have just continued to do what you did and you would have made 6 figures. What are the parts of YouTuber creating content you appreciate even if they didn't make money?
I think it's like impact. It might sound kind of cheesy, but being able to make a difference in the world.
Yeah.
I view like any piece of content I make, most if it's not like a product review, they're usually mission based. Like I did one where I tested caffeine levels in New York City of like different coffee shops, and that's fun to watch.
You went to McDonald's, I remember too.
Yes,
right? You had all
McDonald's.
your equipment. Yeah.
Yep. And that was one to like make entertaining content that I thought would perform well. But the end goal of that was a mission to just bring awareness to caffeine intake. So to get people thinking about like how much caffeine are you actually consuming on a daily basis, and like are you measuring that? Because caffeine's a drug, you know, and because it's socially accepted, people don't think about it and they just drink as much as they want. So I was like, how can I get people to think about that and just maybe have a little bit more like awareness and like critical thinking behind it?
I kind of love that because this gets into why I wanted to move into this world to start with. Like the three of you have experienced tremendous growth, partially by starting to do content, but also because you're living with each other. You're learning from each other.
Yep.
And I can personally say, Tejas, I've learned a lot from you.
Really?
I mean, because in another world, right? Maybe I would have followed your path dropping out of college instead of going to the corporate industrial machine for so long. Yeah. And I think of content like that's how people learn from each other at scale. Like, why is content even good? Ideally redemptive content. It's because it's something where you get to help others by educating them, entertaining them, inspiring them.
At scale.
At scale. And what I think is really cool is between the three of you, there's different elements of that you're each hitting, right? Like, Shervin, you just explained like helping people understand, oh, the caffeine content when you go to these different coffee shops, like clearly that's educational, but you also make it entertaining. You were literally going around to coffee shops in New York City and a goddamn scientist lab coat. All right, just adding a little bit of flavor. I remember the comments, people are like, this man is committed. Like this is good. This isn't just like some rando dude talking to me about caffeine. Like, I like to watch this. For yourself, you're squarely in that mix of, you said it yourself, entertaining and educational. I recently watched your video on the strikes, and I really liked it because the common perception living in Hollywood is, of course, we have to support the little guy, the actors, right? The studios. And then you were like, ooh, but
There's
hey,
a second side to every
exactly.
story.
If you don't take risk, if you don't share in the downside, can you really argue how you want to share in the reward? And Cole, I think if your work is, when I watched your Oscar the Grouch, very surrealistic dream sequence, it's inspiring to take people, and entertaining to take people through your journey. Here's everywhere I've been in New York City, the moments I've had, because when I watch it, I feel a little bit like, oh wow, you really can just change your entire f***ing life.
In 1 year.
Chase your dreams. Yeah.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
I'm curious, so the three of you, now you've lived together for how long?
9 months.
Yep.
It feels such a short period of time that you guys have done so much together as not a content house, as a collective. I'm curious, when you think as a group, the three of you, what are the moments you've been most excited or happy with each other? And what are the moments you felt most frustrated or afraid?
So happiest and most frustrated with each other?
It can be in this space. So maybe, I don't know, Colt and Shervin over there doing shots and you're sitting in the corner crying. So it doesn't be all the same time, but like in the content closet.
I think because it's so compact and we're all kind of like working on top of each other, there has been times where it's like, yo, I'm trying to film, but he's trying to film, you know? So it's kind of just like, I mean, you go through that anyways, and it's kind of just living with each other. You learn how to work with one another, and now we're all on Google Calendar, so trying to make that work. But yeah, those are like very many frustrations. I feel like we really work together really well, and I hope we just don't crash and burn like every other content house, but we're not a content house. We're a creator collective, you know?
What's that?
What do you think is that fear you describe, crashing and burning? What do you think causes that?
I think it's tough once you mix like business and money on top of friendship, I'd say. So it's really powerful that we all have our own separate things that we're growing separately from each other, and like we all support each other and our growth as a collective, but it doesn't really overlap onto or step on anybody that much.
Yeah. I think there's 2 reasons why most of these content houses have fallen. One is when your rent is tied to, like directly tied to how much content you put out, right? So I made that video about the content houses. They would like, you wouldn't be able to live in that house unless you posted their deliverables. That is just a bad business model, right? Because if I wanted to take a month break, then that's like, I wouldn't have been able to in that house. 2 is none of us share equity in any one thing, right? So none of us have, you know, you're part of a business. There's hard talks sometimes. Those hard talks are necessary. But if you also live together on top of that, yeah, it's scary.
I get that too, especially because when you feel like you don't have a choice and you have to do something, I think one thing that's cool when you got to make content is there's some element of creativity, right? Like, look, you guys chose this.
Yeah.
Like, you could have been doing so many other things, but you chose this. And then to have that subsumed into, you are now part of the content creation machine to live here, to exist, pump out content. Yep. I get that. I also love your point on, like, you set up Google Calendar. This really matters, right? I have a co-founder. We do therapy every week because we were friends starting off, but it changes when you actually do start to work with each other. Even living with each other, it gets tricky. I'm curious, who started the Google Calendar? I knew it was fucking you.
No, whoa, what, me?
We both have been. He made it sound like, yeah.
I feel like Tejas was the one who was like, we need to put stuff in the calendar. I have a Google Calendar.
Yeah. Oh, in terms of like filming, yeah, I think we're not good at it, but we're all trying to do things every day. This is 90% of all 3 of our content is filmed in this square box right here,
square foot pod,
right?
Yeah.
And so, it's something we're working on more, just like organization on that.
What other, have you set up other ways to sync with each other outside the calendar? And then Shervin, it looks like you were about to say something too.
No, I guess I started calendar inviting people to things. I think that's maybe what started it all.
So they all looked at you when I asked the question.
Yeah, probably.
You're probably the most diligent.
I'm a very heavy calendar. Like, I can't survive without my calendar. Like, I don't know what I'm doing that day unless it's in my calendar. But yeah, what was the other question?
What processes have you set up, or rituals almost, does the content closet have beyond a Google Calendar? So when I'm filming, you're not filming in my shot.
We used to have like weekly chapter. where we would cook and eat dinner together. But with anything, when you try to develop a habit, like it comes and then everyone travels and then that falls apart. So we try to have, I think we tried to have like check-ins at some point, but that kind of like dissolved.
Yeah.
Right now we don't have a specific system in place, but I think we're very good at like, just being honest and open with each other.
Yeah, I remember like Tejas, you're also part of a group, I think it's called the Out West Chronicles.
Yeah,
right?
guys, yeah.
Yeah, where you hold yourself to these challenges. Where like I don't make this video by this time. I'm gonna eat a salmon shake.
Yeah,
Which I'm pretty sure you did. And you just like
Oh, it's horrible.
totally puked and like made yourself extremely miserable.
Yeah, we're not doing that anymore. That was 2022 Tejas. This is a different Tejas.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I actually don't think I've noticed this challenge focused content as much. Where you're like, I have to put this out here.
Yeah.
It's more just like, ironically, the most growth you've seen is just like living with these guys. We're like, sure, you guys have like a calendar, you try to do dinners, but it's worth just being around with each other. Going off my question, Nicole, what are the moments that you remember where you felt personally most happiest or excited in the content closet, or where you felt most frustrated or scared?
I mean, I think like at least twice a month minimum. There's like at some point one of us goes, yo, what are we doing right now? Like, where are we? This is the craziest thing that we're all doing. Like, we're living in New York City, making videos. Look at the growth. So it's like any one of those, like, just super reflectory moments, which is really funny because usually one of us is in that. And the other two is like, dude, he's in one of those moments. Like, he's being crazy. Like, Shervin will come up while we're editing. He's like, it's usually when he's a couple drinks in, too. He's like, what's happening, guys? All this stuff. Colt will be in that. I'll be in that. But those are really fun. Because I think we've all seen each other from zero.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Yep.
Other happy moments. What's a happy moment, guys? We have happy moments.
Yeah, Shervin, what about for you? What do you remember?
If I want to pick one, it would be like when we first moved in, we didn't have any furniture. We set up this folding table right here.
Haven't upgraded since.
Yeah.
Where's that picture?
We cooked a meal. We took a picture together. Like we were all sitting right here and we just like ate a meal and it was just like this empty apartment. And we were like, some cool stuff's going to happen here. Hopefully.
It's the most momentum I think any one of us have had in our entire career.
Yeah.
It's
And
cool.
what have been the moments where you've been most afraid or frustrated?
For me personally, Shervin and I laugh at this now, but the first 6 months of this year they were really tough financially for me. I'm in a similar boat. I had a bunch of savings and I told myself, if I'm going to do this YouTube thing, it has to have my full attention. And that basically what meant me stopping short form. I didn't post a short form video for 3 months. And that was my entire business model for 2 years. And I was just like burning cash. And I was like, really up until May, I was like, this isn't really working. I wasn't uploading too. Like, who knew if you don't upload, your stuff's not going to grow. So that's why Shervin's like, we both jokes like, what did I do for the first 4 months of this year? I couldn't tell you. I look back and I'm like, what? I didn't make a single video. Like,
You went to the gym a lot. Look at
That is true. That is true. But that was really frustrating. Of like, I couldn't figure it out. And I felt like I told myself I was going to do this whole creator thing, that I'm not going to also be a consultant and stuff. And I was like, it's like it's not really working. And I'm also like, until you see something going, like it's like a train. It's like the hardest things for a train to start moving. And once it moves, it's just like, it's got it. Right. So it's really tough when you're the person not having your train moving. And like for both of them, it was moving. And I was like,
So they were growing.
yeah.
And you were for 4 months
Like fourth.
not uploading as much, not doing
Yeah.
your short form.
Yeah, I would post a long form video here and there, but I still didn't really understand. Like looking back now, I just didn't understand the game, right? And that's why I was like May for some reason this year. It was like all of us. There was just a giant that pushed all of our trains to start moving. Shervin a little less. Like not May. May wasn't like your big month, but for at least us two. Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me, I've realized more and more that effort often increases like linearly, but outcomes come in step functions. So you put in all this work, but that's not necessarily how the views come. A lot of times it's like
Yeah.
that.
Totally.
And then it's like, how do you literally keep yourself going through that moment where your effort's increasing like this,
Yep.
but your output's staying like that? And so I'm curious, for those 4 months, like literally, what were you doing? How did you hold the faith?
Oh, Eric, I swear to you that I feel like I blacked out from January to March at least. I couldn't tell you what I was doing.
Let's check your Google Calendar.
That's a good way of putting it. I was barely putting out like long form YouTube videos. I don't know. I really do. Like I think it was kind of like a oh shit moment. So I've kind of like I think blocked it out a little bit, but I could tell you what I've done every single day since like May, I think 18th was the day I uploaded that video. Every day, like all systems clicked. But before that, what was it? Do you know?
You hung some shells.
I was gonna say the same thing.
Like,
Wait, what did he do?
Got his room together. I don't know.
An organization.
Are we just looking at Tejas' desk and
yeah,
shelves?
it's like I ran a half marathon in February.
Well, I'm curious from both of your perspectives. What did you during the period where Tejas is blacked out and currently has amnesia? What did you like see him doing? Like, what was he doing?
I think he kept like wanting to do projects and then scrapping it and then going and then had a new idea of like, let's do this. Oh, no, never mind that. Oh, no, never mind this. And then just like relationship building.
Yeah. I'm a big believer that life often alternates between periods where you wander in the desert and you're just like, holy fuck, what do I do? And then you find the thing and then you're focused on climbing the hill.
Yep.
Like in a weird way, it's easy to work hard when you know what you're working toward and you're seeing progress. But I think in periods, you often don't know. And that sounds like what you were going through.
A lot of wandering in some forest of New York. Yeah.
The first 3-4 months of this year. Shervin, what about for yourself? Because the story I have about you is even when you left your job, you had planned ahead, right? You had your runway, you had your savings, you knew you were gonna make videos from the start. We're gonna like monetizing, be putting out 1 to 2 uploads a week. And I still keep going back, just picturing you sitting there on your phone, seeing Gary Vee be like, just like leave and go and like live with your friends in a closet. So clearly part of you is like, oh no, like I gotta do some shit. Did you ever go through periods too where you felt like your effort was not being reflected in the results you were seeing?
That's a good question. I don't think I ever looked at it like that. I think it's very easy to tie the two together. And as long as you know what you're doing and you're laying the foundation, like for me, I was like laying the foundation for this potential success. And it's just about, increasing the probability of achieving whatever I wanted to do. So I just never viewed it like that.
I'm laying down the foundation.
Yeah.
The scaffolding.
If I did view it like that, like it would be very demotivating. And I think I just wanted a different external metric.
Wow. So, okay. So we have so far 2 heuristics, right? So you just blacked out for 3-4 months, but we joke about it unconsciously though.
Yeah.
You were clearly working through things in your mind because like, it's not like you woke up one day and you like pooped out a David Dobrik video.
Yeah.
There were things going through your head, but in a way, consciously, you almost weren't aware of them. You're pretty deliberate around, I'm setting up these systems, principles, and processes. Actually, Cole, I'm really curious for you. What does that creative process look like?
I think that's the next struggle that we're trying to figure out for everybody, systemizing things. For me, it's just kind of like wandering and then, 2 weeks later, that's a cool idea. And then you kind of like build off of that. But then, 1 month goes by, still no videos out, So it's very much so for me searching into like my inner child, nostalgia. I love nostalgic content and then trying to like innovate on, I feel like they're always preaching about providing value. So I'm trying to take vlogs and kind of incorporate value and creativity in that as well. So it'll be like a camera tip video, but just not a boring camera tip video. Then that's when like Dora the New Yorker comes in, that's like creative part to it.
You mentioned, I saw your most recent upload was actually how to use a camera, but like way better and cooler than just how to use a camera.
Appreciate it.
Which is funny. I can see like the inspirations from both of them kind of in that. You mentioned a lot of it's exploring your inner child.
Yep.
When you think back to like Colt as a kid, like, were you a quiet kid? Were you a loud one? Were you creative? What was your childhood like?
Pretty fortunate. I mean, I have 2 sisters, and we just have like completely different childhoods. But I was like, I was in the same place. But for me, I thought my childhood was pretty good. I feel like I still haven't grown up. I'm still just like a kid, just a little bit bigger, and got to pay bills now. Just a little bit bigger. Yeah. I haven't gotten that much bigger, but I feel like I still have to grow up a lot. I don't cook. I don't curse. It's just like I am just like a big child, honestly. But yeah, my whole focus is just having fun in life, and that's kind of I'm just glad it's working out. So
and that same tendency of yours, you mentioned like you don't cook, right? You're still figuring out how to schedule your videos. That's also the childlike wonder that permeates through your videos. Tejas, I'm actually really curious for yourself, like what What do we think Tejas? I picture Tejas as like a 7-year-old on the playground walking up to another kid and be like, "You want some candy? Like, give me your snap. Like, let's hang."
That's funny. No, I was actually pretty quiet. I was good. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What changed?
What changed? I think like it's somewhere in high school I just became like really loud. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
I started hanging out with cooler people, so I thought I owned the school.
Were you a cool kid in high school?
I would like to say so. I don't know. I think so. Like, what is anyone gonna be like? Yeah, I was the cool
Popular,
kid. Like,
yeah.
I feel like it makes you uncool if you think you're the cool kid.
Did you already know you wanted to make content when you were in high school?
My senior year, yeah. I've always had like that idea in my head. I was like, I making videos is cool because I was part of a club. Do you know what Rube Goldberg is? Like
Yeah,
a
it's
Rube
where you
Goldberg
create
machine?
these intricate machines where I move this cup and then like 20 steps later, like a gold bar drops in front of my face.
Exactly. It's like the most inefficient machine to ever build, is what we say. And I made a small documentary my senior year, like I had no knowledge, just using my iPhone, just recording random clips. It's the end of senior year, and I put this 30-minute documentary together. It was like the most fulfilling thing for me at the time. And then that was 2018. Like 2020 was when I was like, it's the pandemic. Like, might as well have extra time. Let me restart that thing that was so fulfilling to me 2 years ago.
So the first piece of content you really remember was the Rube Goldberg documentary.
Yeah.
What was the first piece in 2020 where you like started getting on the TikTok train?
Ooh, well, in August of 2020 is when I went, I got to post 3 times a day on TikTok. Like, everyone is on this app. Like, let me just try. And I think I gained 2,000 followers in that first month. I was like, I've never seen anything like this before.
And was
So-
this stock market stuff?
It was actually, the early stuff was all creator economy stuff before I even knew. It would be like, here are the revenue streams of Emma Chamberlain. And then go through, like, she has merch. She has coffee, and that's it. Yeah.
Shervin, what about for yourself? Do you remember, what was like the first piece of content you remember making that was meaningful to you? And like, now I'm curious, like as a kid, were you also super jacked? Like, can you just picture
way.
Shervin, the baby comes out, and he just has a mustache already.
I was a skinny. Yeah, probably had the mustache, but I was very skinny growing up, I think. I was a swimmer, so I was like super slender. That's a weird word, slender. That's an interesting word.
So you were a slender swimmer.
I was skinny. Like, I was probably like, right now I'm 205 maybe ish.
Dang.
215 was my peak like a month ago.
Dang.
But I was probably 161. I was 170. That's probably my normal weight for most of my adult life.
Yeah.
So I hit 200 like for the first time like last year, and I was like, whoa.
I mean,
so
like,
cool.
I know health is a big focus for you because even previously when you were a product manager, you worked at Core Power Yoga, right? Like, that's still like health focused. So what point did you go from skinny, slender swimmer Shervin to the cultivating mass path that you've been on since?
The Klondike bars in her fridge. The 7th Street burger he just ate.
But no, it's not going to fat. It's going into muscle. Like, I would trust Shervin. There's a Mack truck. There's this trope in Japanese anime and manga that like a truck comes and hits you and get transported to another world. I would trust Shervin to stand in front of that truck and like push against it and save my life. So what changed?
I think I've always had the desire to be big. For some reason, when I was a kid, I would look at like Hercules and like look at like these magazines, and I was like, I want to be jacked like that. Why is that so funny?
I get that. I know.
it's just
I
funny.
respect it. I feel the same way, and I'm like not particularly cultivating of mass right now, but I was much skinnier before. It's like a weird thing where it's like, for me, if I feel like I'm physically in shape, mentally I feel stronger and more proud of myself and more creative as well. It's like, I totally get that.
Still working on the mental side, but yeah.
I mean, I'm still working on it too,
That's
but
funny.
I know if I don't go into the gym regularly, I get really sad.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I think it's definitely like a moving meditation.
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy now going to the gym.
You know, I feel like I'm going to come
hurts.
back in a year and I'm just going to see 3 Shervins in different races with various different styles of mustaches. And be like, holy shit.
I
what
figured out the
changed?
mustache part. You can kind of grow one.
Maybe.
Yeah, I could see it. So you knew you wanted.
Eric's gonna be like, so it's been a year since you guys. What
Eric
what
has
has
a
changed
mustache
since
too?
then? Oh, you guys all grew mustaches. Interesting.
No, well, I kind of love it, right? I'm going to come back in a year. Actually, that's a great question. In a year, how do you want to be feeling?
feeling.
I mean, we already know you're going to be wildly successful YouTubers. Your following counts are going to have grown even more. You're going to be 200 pounds with Shervin mustaches. Like, these things go without saying, so it is written. The bigger question is, how do you want to be feeling?
I think financially free for me. My diet includes like Subway and the same burger spot literally every single day. I don't know how I'm still alive right now, but I feel like I want to get to a place where I don't have to like look at the price tags and there's nothing holding me back besides just being able to make content.
It's not gonna happen in 1 year. Watch me.
Yeah, watch
Damn, I thought we were like supportive of each other.
Yeah, I heard that.
Bring
I
on
was
my
like,
downfall out here.
I was like, that seems like a realistic goal. That
is it? Oh,
Colt
shit.
can walk
Sorry,
in and be
guys.
like,
Oh,
you know,
fuck.
I'm making that sweet greens today instead of Subway.
Yeah.
And Tejas, you literally looked at me. You're like,
yeah, that's not gonna happen.
you really
I
think
mean,
that,
like to
buddy?
say financially free, bro. People like spend years to do
Yeah.
that. That's like
I feel like I don't need that much though.
Financial free is very subjective.
it's also subjective. Yeah.
Yeah,
Colt doesn't need much. He's a very simple man.
I'm a simple man. Yeah.
Money is a vehicle for freedom, right? And so like I want to maximize freedom.
So if you felt totally free, what would you be doing differently in your life? So he would be eating not Subway every day. What about for
Yeah.
yourself?
If money was like zero concern,
Yeah.
honestly, I would still be making videos. Probably wouldn't be so like algorithm gaming as I am now, but like I did it for I made videos without making any money for this long. It's like I've already done that, right? And so I would
You were
still do
already
it.
acting like you had
Exactly.
$1
Exactly. So that part would still be there. I don't know. I'd probably work out more.
I like it. Although that's so interesting. You
Buy
say-
whatever he's buying, right?
Yeah, those biceps. I mean, I can literally see the vascularity on Shervin's arms from here.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed. That's low body fat. I also check like body fat and BMI and all those things. So you're doing it. Well, Tejas, you said something really interesting. You said like less algorithmic focused. Like, what's the type? How would your content change?
I think there's a game to be played when it comes to YouTube a little bit, right? It's like, how much do you want to play that game of like, what is your titles going to be? What are your thumbnails going to be? What are these? And I think a lot of my time is spent on that. I'm sure that if I didn't have to worry about any of that, that would change. I don't know to what extent. I wouldn't be completely like free spirited in it, right? Because I do enjoy the game, but there are parts of what I'm creating. I'm like, this could probably be a little, slower or cooler or more artistic in that, but I'm going to forego that right now because my goal is to grow.
And then Shervin, what about for yourself? What's the dream? Or if you had $1 billion?
The dream. I think it's just I love running experiments and just like chasing my curiosities. So I'd just be doing that on a higher level. So I'd be like spending money on bigger experiments and like just learning things.
When you look back at your life, what have been the most successful experiments you've run that have changed how you think about things?
Maybe they're like life experiments almost. Like I would consider quitting my job an experiment,
Yeah.
right? Because I quit my job twice actually. Fun fact.
Did you go back after the first time, say just kidding?
So no, but I kind of planned that where it was like a year. It was a 3-month experiment or something, and I was like, okay, I can always go back. And then the second time, I was like, I'm gonna take a leave of absence for a month. And this is an experiment of what it's like to be a full-time creator. And then what happens at the end? I'm like, all right, actually, I would love this. Let's do it. So those were like experiments that like changed. It was like essentially testing and test driving, my life, what it would look like.
What was different the second time when you decided to stay as a creator versus the first time when you went back?
Well, the first time I quit my job, I didn't have a plan. I was like, let's just figure out life. Like I had done everything. I had done everything my parents had asked me to, which is go to school, get good grades, get a job, and have a secure job. And I got there and I was like, all right, now what? And then the next things I saw was like, get married, have kids, buy a house. And I was like, well, yeah, but then like I'm gonna be stuck in this job forever. Like I was like, I don't want to do that. Like I want to try do things a little differently. So that's when I was like, I'll give myself a year to kind of explore my interests. And I moved back in with my parents. I had some money saved. Thank God for Tesla stock. And then
Elon, you helped Shervin hit 100K. That might be one of the most positive things that you've done currently in this era.
And yeah, and I just like that. I just started like going to yoga class. I started teaching swim lessons. Like I started doing some random things because they were just interesting.
In a way, that's like your version of Tejas's January, March. What was I doing building shelves?
just
phase.
wandering a forest.
Yeah.
Wow. And so then if you had $1 billion, it sounds like for you, it's just more experiments to try new things. Like,
Yes.
what changes would you want in your life? You might not know this experiments, but goals. I mean, I assume like continuing to become more in shape, of course, right?
Yeah, and maybe it would be like building. I want to build community. So it'd be building a space where people could come to, where people like have similar interests.
Wow.
Or whether it's like around health and wellness, or just living. Like a lot of people go to the bars and drink at night. Like, what if I created a space where like that wasn't it, and you could go do that on a Friday night? So that would be like really fun. Like
I kind of love this stream where maybe it's like 5 years from now, where all of you are at that point, and you can go and create the content closet space for the next generation of creators, right? Collectives where, because again, you've described, Colt, accurately what's different about you than a content house. You're not all in each other's content. You make very different types of content. You don't share equity in each other. The rent's low enough that you don't actually have to make content just to live. And yet there's something, as they say, in the water here, in the atmosphere, where I notice it even now. Like you guys, you give each other shit, you egg each other on, you help each other. And at the end, it's one of those funny things where I think it's very hard to be like, okay, guys, like we're all going to live together and hit 100K by the end of the year, because that's like way too much pressure. But in a weird way, like I think that's what's going to happen. It's like pretty darn cool. My last question for each of you is, I would be curious to hear for each one of you. We're going to go and say for a couple minutes, 2-3 minutes, I'll time it on my phone. I'm going to ask the other two of you to share what you appreciate most about that other person. And here's why.
Okay.
Because usually in the midst of daily life, we don't really get to do that. If anything, we share recognition. Hey, that thing, that favor you did for me, thank you. But I think appreciation is less about that specific favor. It's more just about a quality of something about that person. And I can speak for my co-founder and myself. We did this recently and we're like, oh, wow, there's actually a lot of things we just assumed the other person knew that they didn't, because we're so in the midst of things, we don't really get a chance to share. I think you three have created something really special, the first content creator collective of its kind. And so I'd love to do it, and we'll just go right down. I'll set a timer for 2-3 minutes, and the person receiving that appreciation, which in case, Colt, this will be you, you can't say anything other than thank you.
Okay.
So there's no like self-deprecation or no like, no, you. It's just
Okay.
gotta acknowledge it. You can say thanks if you want, and then we just keep going. How does that sound?
Sounds good to me.
Colt, your dreams are definitely possible.
Wow, that was powerful.
That's 2 minutes of silence.
I love again the juxtaposition where Colt's like, yeah, I think I can do this, and Tejas was like, you think 1 year?
So wait, is it 2 minutes each of us to Colt?
No,
Or
it's
2
together.
minutes?
It's going to be together.
Okay,
Us
cool.
Yeah.
two to Colt.
To Colt.
Okay.
Exactly.
2 to 1.
I got one.
Yeah.
All
All
Hey,
right.
free compliments.
You have
let's go.
one?
Yeah.
We're gonna need a lot more than one for 2 minutes.
All right. I got a good
It'll just
one.
be extreme
I got a
silence.
good one. I got a good one.
Okay.
All right.
Ready,
Yeah.
set. Colt appreciation time starts now.
All right. We're going to go career first. But I don't think there is anyone in New York or Los Angeles or any other creator that I would trust more to have a camera in their hand to film anything. Even when I think about shots or anything, I'm like, I rather just give Colt full creative control. He knows how to use a camera more than any single person that I know. And I know a lot of creators. So,
Thank you.
good.
I think you have a surprising amount of tenacity when it comes to like doing a project. Like you'll be up all night for not one night, but like every night for a week doing stop motion little by little just for like a 15-second clip in a video.
I don't know if that's a good. That's funny.
And just that level of like dedication to your craft, I think is something that's like very unique. Like people could be like, well, you're crazy, right? Some people might think that, but I think that's like really inspirational. Like you have a vision and something you want to create, and you're like, I'm gonna make it happen, no matter how much work I have to
Yeah,
put
it's
in.
like that whole thing. It's like you're crazy until you do something successful, then you're called a genius. I think you are the embodiment of the creative adult is just the child who survived. I think we mentioned that a little bit more, but sometimes you'll tell me an idea that you have. I'm like, where in the depths of Colt's brain did you get this? But it's only, I think that's your unfair competitive advantage. I think you also found your voice. which for any artist is probably the hardest journey to go on. And you found that, which is really, really cool.
The ability to fix anything. Literally. Like fix anything. Like you want to install something on the wall. Something's broken. You want to figure out how to open up this thing. Colt will figure it out like that.
Yeah. You're somehow always in shape, even though your food and your diet. Wait, is this a...
It's a roast?
Shoot. You're somehow always in shape.
Thank you.
Your jokes. Randomly, you'll just be the funniest guy in the world.
Yeah, you do. You do that, which is really funny. You're caring. I respect your relationship with Kriza. You know, whenever I do accidentally eavesdrop, we live in a tight space. But you're a very caring guy, and I think like unconsciously, I've picked up positive traits about how you look at relationships.
The desire to be better. I think there's always like different areas of your life. You're like, wow, what can I learn from you? Like, oh, how can I be more business minded, or how can I, be more consistent? Like that's, I notice that desire. You have that curiosity and desire to want more of other things.
To that point, I've seen you grow as a person. You mentioned a little earlier about you being a yes man, and you just reminded me of like that time when you were, and looking at you now, I've seen this happen. So you do take the steps. You're not just comfortable with like your current setting. You're willing to get uncomfortable, which is really positive trait.
Thanks, God. Awesome. That's fantastic. I feel like $1 million right now. I guess I do want $1 million.
Tejas did catch himself a couple times.
Yeah, I was like, oh
being
shoot, this is a roast.
This is not a roast. I'm amazed you're in shape, given that
Subway and
you stay
burgers.
You stay in shape, and it's great. All right, well now, Tejas, are you ready?
Okay, yeah, sure.
I kind of like it. You're like in the middle. You're going to be getting bi-directional appreciation. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1. Tejas appreciation time. Go.
Tejas has always been the one that pushes me further beyond than I feel like I'm even capable. I feel like there are times where we kind of like butt heads a little bit. I'm like, I'm like so uncomfortable, but he's just dead set on like, this is what you need to grow. And he's always been that force to push me further and further and further. And I really would not even be living together if you hadn't, got us all together. So, yeah, dude, you're amazing.
Thank you.
I think the boldness of, asking for phone numbers, locations. Yeah, it might sound crazy, but I think you need to lean into it. Like, just live that life. Like, I think it's probably giving you a lot of great connections and new friends that have changed who you are today.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I guess like everybody always says Tejas is like super good at networking, but I mean, there's a reason why everybody says it. Like, you have talent connecting to other people, and I envy that. I'm just like, dang, how does he do it, man? Like, I feel like, yeah, just like you're really good at connecting with people and really just like getting past just like surface level conversation and really getting to know somebody for like who they are. And I think that's very powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna ditto that. But I think the number of people that you know in New York City and outside of New York City in the creator world, and like the depth of the relationship that you have with those people is like, it's shocking. I'm like, I don't know how you do it, man. Like, I can't even talk to like, but these are the two relationships I can manage.
Thank you.
You're also a go-getter. You even though you've been through so many different phases, I know you're gonna make it in whatever you put your mind to, and yeah, whatever's thrown at you, you always just take it full on and don't even doubt that you won't be able to make it. I mean, he got invited to run a marathon in a couple of weeks, and like for a regular person, that's just like not possible. But you didn't even full on training now. So
Tejas isn't regular.
Tejas built different.
Built different. Self-awareness. I think you have a like crazy amount of self-awareness. Like when I first met you, like you were a baby, and the level of self-awareness for your age is like truly, truly amazing. I'm like, damn, the level of maturity and self-awareness for like kind of where you are in life is like above a lot of people. And it's like something will happen here, and you'll have the ability to be like, oh, maybe I did something wrong, or like, there's a certain kind of tension in the room, and being able to read that and communicate that amongst all the people there is like really powerful.
Thank you.
I'll also add on, now I've known you for over 3 years, getting on 4. which is kind of crazy.
Wow.
Because that's like the length of a college career right there. So a couple of things I'll add. One, I appreciate it takes a lot of courage to accept when things aren't working and you need to try to do something new. And to sit through the 3 months of amnesia and like not go fucking insane. Yeah. I really admire that courage, right? And it's something I more want to have myself. And yeah, I think you're good at networking because you're good at relationships. You very much care about people. And you found a way to blend that in redemptive outcomes. The same way you're thinking through content, you're thinking through like, yeah, I want to make this, but I also want to provide value to the people watching it. I think you're a good relationship not only because you care and you enjoy hanging out, but you're also thinking through how can I help others and really just continue growing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you. It is $1 million feeling.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
Oh shoot, we gotta think about Shervin now.
Thank you for listening.
No,
to that.
thank you.
And on that note, thank you so much for coming to the Content Closet.
No,
Make
seriously,
sure to
no, thank you.
subscribe, turn on
That's-
your notifications.
All right, so we're going to go 3, 2, 1, Shervin appreciation time, go.
Shervin, you know, it's funny. You mentioned earlier that like there's like an effort thing, and then everyone gets a spike. Shervin, you're the only person I've seen like genuinely lay brick by brick. I think I mentioned this to you with your content, which is so impressive to me because that you have the true fan base there, and I think in a world where everyone is kind of like had these spikes and they fall, it's like you're the most gradual grinder, consistent person I know.
On that, I feel like no one deserves it more than you do. Because, I mean, it must feel like a sucker punch when like you post one video and it surpasses and stuff like that. But you have had the strength to just like continue going, and it finally is like where it's at now. But I mean, at the same time, you don't measure it the same way, subscribers, whatever. But yeah, I mean, you've been a grinder for before I even met you, and yeah, it's crazy that you haven't laid off the gas since. If anything, you somehow pushed it even more. So,
I think you've proven to me that the secret to consistency isn't like just through isn't through just like motivation, being like, oh, I'm gonna be consistent. But you have such good systems set in terms of like what meetings you're gonna take on to the day, and even just like fitness, right? There's a reason you're this big, and you told me this since day one. You're like, it's got to feel like second nature to you. And I think the most important things you have in life are second nature to you in that. And like, you don't think twice about doing it, right? It's like, I have to have this call with this person. Like, this is going to happen. You know, I think that's really impressive.
yeah. I think, first, Shervin's just like straight up nice. I feel like, I'm like, I only ate like once today. And he's like, bro, eat my groceries. Like, you got to sustain yourself.
Yeah.
But we make a joke that Shervin is Tejas' father. And
I'm not.
he's
Joke.
not, just for clarity, but he very much is like a father figure, I'd say, in the house, and just like always looking out for us little boys, you know. And yeah, it's just like such a team player and just like such a great person to be around.
Yeah. You'll always have some unique solution to problems in life. Like, I'm trying to think of like, you broke your foot. All of a sudden, there's 25 pill bottles on top of our thing. Or like you're talking to like more like, for me, if I broke my foot, it would be that one doctor we all went to and filmed you, but not the 3 other people you're talking to, not the like all these different things. You're looking at all these alternative ways and you really try to understand. And I'm not just talking about fitness, just like the problem that is in front of you and all the different solutions. And I only think 1% of people have that.
Yeah.
I love that. And that's time. I kind of love, like, all of you are crazy motherfuckers. You all alluded to this, right? Or like, yeah, I think Tejas, you described Colt as, right, that childhood innocence and spirit that hasn't grown up, right? They called you crazy, like, oh, just like vibe along for a few days, making my stop motion Oscar puppet, which really is like imagination in its purest form to see like a Sesame Street Muppet come up to life, right? I mean, Tejas literally said like, how the do you go out and build so many relationships, right? Like the stories you share about DMing Colt and asking him about cameras turning into camaraderie, or like just gaslighting Shervin, right? Or like even myself, right? Just meeting you in this like super random LA influencer mixer thing that frankly kind of sucked. Except like you were there. We had like a really great time.
We hung out for 12 more hours
yeah,
after that.
I just had like a lot of adventures. And then Shervin just like, I think the expression is sheer f***ing will.
Yeah.
which reflects the discipline you have not only in physically but mentally, right? Your body, your health, your work.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much. This is the content closet, and appreciate all of you very much for making time. How do you feel? That was it.
Thanks for having us.